The bridge across the lake wasn't just some wooden walkway. It was my family's pride. My father built it 40 years ago, plank by plank, to connect our cabin to the far side of the property. It stood strong through storms, weddings, and countless fishing trips. The HOA loved using it as a backdrop for their events, even though it wasn't theirs. I told them many times, the bridge is private property. But Karen and her board didn't like that word, private. They thought everything in sight belonged to the HOA. One weekend, I came home to a nightmare. The bridge was gone. Not damaged, gone. Bulldozed into splinters. Pilings ripped from the water. On the shore, a bright orange construction sign read, "New HOA-approved walkway coming soon." I saw red. Karen appeared not long after, clipboard in hand, smug as ever. "We're replacing your unsafe old bridge with something more modern. It's for the good of the community." "My bridge wasn't unsafe," I snapped, "and it wasn't yours to touch. You destroyed private property." She gave me that condescending smirk. "Oh, relax. Once it's rebuilt, you'll thank us. And since it'll be HOA maintained, we'll be charging you fees for upkeep." That was the last straw. I spent the next 48 hours digging through county water rights and land surveys. And here's what Karen didn't realize. Not only did I own the bridge, I also controlled the dam that regulated the entire lake's water level. My grandfather had secured the rights decades ago. Without my dam, there was no lake. So early one crisp morning, I went down to the dam, turned the wheel, and slowly lowered the floodgates. Water rushed out downstream, and within hours, the lake began to shrink. By evening, docks sat on dry mud, boats tilted helplessly, and Karen's prized lakefront neighborhood had become a wasteland of cracked earth. Panic spread fast. Neighbors screamed at Karen. "What happened to the water?" She stormed over to my cabin, furious. "You can't do this. You're destroying property values." I looked her dead in the eye. "You destroyed my bridge. That was the last connection my family had to this lake. Now you get to see what life looks like without it." She threatened to call the police. They came, looked at my paperwork, and left. The sheriff even chuckled. "Ma'am, he's well within his rights." Within weeks, the HOA was in chaos. Their $4 million lakefront resort project crumbled, literally. Without water, investors pulled out, bookings were canceled, and lawsuits piled up against Karen and the board. Meanwhile, I sat with my neighbors, the ones who had nothing to do with Karen's schemes, and offered them a deal. Help me rebuild the bridge, respect the shoreline rights, and I'd restore the lake. They agreed in a heartbeat, so we rebuilt it together, stronger than ever. Once it was finished, I reopened the dam and let the waters rise again. The lake filled back to its former glory, shimmering in the sun. Karen, she lost everything. Her position, her reputation, and eventually her house when the HOA collapsed under the lawsuits. And my bridge? It stands again, tall and proud. A reminder that no one messes with what's mine. Last year, I had to spend 6 months overseas for work. Before leaving, I made sure everything was secured, fences repaired, and cattle tended to. I had a ranch hand checking in weekly. Everything was in order. But when I returned, I didn't recognize my own land. Where my fields once stretched, there were rows of cookie-cutter houses, sidewalks, streetlights, driveways, and bright banners that read, "Welcome to Oak Ridge Estates, Phase 2. 138 brand new homes, built directly on my property." I nearly ran my truck off the road. I stormed straight to the HOA clubhouse, where Karen, the president, was sipping iced tea like a queen on her throne. "You've got 10 seconds to explain why there are houses on my land," I growled. Karen smiled sweetly. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. The developer decided to expand, and your ranch land was perfect. Don't worry, you'll be compensated once the sales finalize." My blood boiled. "You built on MY property without consent. That's trespass, fraud, and theft." Karen laughed. "You weren't using it. Now families will enjoy it. You should be thanking us." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just walked out because I knew something she didn't. See, the developer who originally built their subdivision? I'd gone to school with the CEO, and while the HOA thought they were cozy with him, they forgot one important detail. Their contracts only covered the lots already sold. They had zero rights to expand without purchasing new land. And they hadn't purchased mine, which meant every one of those 138 houses was sitting illegally on my ranch. I called the CEO. Hey, you might want to check your records, I told him, because your company just built phase 2 on land I still own. There was silence on the other end of the line, followed by a panicked, "What?" I sent him the deed, the surveys, and the aerial photos. Within hours, his legal team descended on the HOA like a pack of wolves. Turns out, the HOA board had forged documents claiming they had development rights. The contractor never verified ownership, they just built. That single mistake triggered one of the biggest lawsuits in county history. The HOA was sued for fraud. The developer sued them for damages. Homebuyers sued them for selling illegal lots. And me? I sued for land theft. In the end, the HOA was completely bankrupted. Karen and her board were personally liable for millions. Their homes were seized, their assets drained, and their reputations destroyed. As for the 138 new houses, the county condemned them. Some were bulldozed, others sat empty, rotting shells of a failed scam. My ranch hand and I tore down the cheap sidewalks and fences, and I reclaimed my land. Today, when I drive past that part of my ranch, it's peaceful again, just wide, open fields. A few remnants of driveways poke through the grass like scars, reminders of what Karen and her HOA tried to steal. They thought they could take my land while I was away. Instead, they lost everything, while I gained one of the most ironclad property rights cases in county history. My ranch stood long before their HOA, and it'll still be here long after they're gone.